Smoke covered the battlefield, thick and black, rising from broken machines and burning metal. The ground was wet with blood and mud, and the air carried the sound of dying soldiers. Between the ruins of shattered towers, an alien girl fell, her body trembling, her armor cracked. She had fought bravely, but now her strength was gone. Her people had already left her behind, running to save their own lives. She lay half in the mud, half in the firelight, her eyes wide but fading. She whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "Do not let them find me. Not like this." A shadow moved. A figure stepped closer through smoke. It was not one of her kind. It was a human. He was tall, wrapped in black armor, heavy with scratches. The man carried an exoskeleton, a steel frame locked around his arms and legs, glowing faintly blue. The suit hissed with every step, as if it was alive. He saw her lying there. His jaw clenched. He could have walked away, but instead he came closer. The alien girl weakly raised her hand, her voice sharp but broken. "Leave me. Leave me now. If they see you with me, they will kill you too." Her words carried anger, but also fear. She had been taught that humans were selfish, that they would never risk themselves for another race. Surely he would listen. Surely he would go. But the man did not move away. He knelt down beside her. His dark eyes scanned her wounds, the burns across her skin, the blood soaking her side. The exoskeleton whirred as he reached for her. She tried to push him off, but her arms had no strength. "I said, leave me," she cried again, though her voice cracked like broken glass. He ignored her. He slid one arm under her back, the other under her knees. The exoskeletons supported his weight as he lifted her easily. She gasped, shocked at his strength, shocked that he dared to touch her. Her head fell against his chest as he stood. The night around them was not safe. Patrol lights cut across the smoke, searching. Voices echoed in the alien tongue, soldiers sweeping the ruins for survivors. The human pressed his body against a wall, holding her tightly as a beam of light passed over them. He did not breathe. She stared up at him in silence, her heart beating fast. Why was he doing this? Why risk everything? The sound of boots grew nearer. The patrol was coming their way. The man's exoskeleton made a soft click, shifting weight to his legs. He moved fast, stepping over bodies, ducking under metal beams, carrying her like she weighed nothing. She could hear his breath, steady and calm, even while hers was shallow and broken. She whispered harshly against his chest, "You fool! They will find us both. Put me down." Her fingers weakly grabbed his armor, trying to push herself free, but he did not let go. He pressed her closer to his chest, his grip firm. The ruins shifted as something exploded nearby, throwing dust and sparks. The human lowered his body over hers, shielding her from falling stone. When the dust cleared, he looked at her again, his expression hard. She saw no fear in his face, only determination. The alien soldiers' voices grew louder. They were right above the ruins. The girl could hear them speaking. If they looked down, they would see her, and the human would die beside her. She wanted to scream at him again, but her throat closed. Her lips trembled. For the first time, she felt something strange, doubt in her own people, and confusion about this human who refused to abandon her. He moved deeper into the shadows, careful and silent. His exoskeleton hissed with each controlled step. He leaned his back against a broken wall, listening. The soldiers passed by. One of them stopped, shining his light over the rubble. The beam hovered dangerously close. The girl held her breath, her nails digging into the man's armor. He did not move. The soldier turned away at last, walking off. Their voices faded. Only then did the human move again. He stepped into a broken corridor, carrying her further from danger. She tried to speak, but her voice was softer now, more tired than angry. "Why? Why save me? I am nothing to you." His answer was simple, "Because you are alive." His voice was low, rough, but steady. That was all he said. No great speech, no reason she could understand. Just those words. Her eyes closed. She wanted to hate him, to curse him, but the warmth of his arms and the strange strength in his voice made it impossible. For the first time, she felt safe, even as the world around them burned. A crash echoed above them. Part of the ruined ceiling groaned and split. Heavy stone cracked loose, tumbling down. Dust filled the corridor as the ground shook. The human looked up just as the ceiling collapsed, huge slabs falling toward them. He tightened his hold on her and pushed forward with the exoskeleton's strength. The last thing she saw before everything went dark was his body turning. his arms shielding her completely, as the ceiling fell with a roar that shook the battlefield. Dust still floated in the air when she opened her eyes again. Broken stone lay everywhere, sharp edges glinting in the faint glow of fires burning outside. The man had carried her through the collapse, shielding her with his body. His exoskeleton was scratched and dented, faint sparks dripping from one of the shoulder joints. He leaned against a wall, breathing hard, but his grip on her never loosened. She could feel the vibration of the machine against her skin, and beneath it, the steady beat of his human heart. Her lips parted. "You should have left me." The words were weak now, not sharp like before. They sounded more like guilt than anger. He didn't answer. His eyes scanned the shadows, listening for footsteps. Every sound in the ruins seemed louder now. Dripping water, cracking metal, distant screams. He moved again, slow but steady, stepping through a narrow hole in the wall into a darker chamber. It smelled of ash and oil, but it was empty. He lowered her onto the cold ground for the first time. She felt strange relief, but also a sudden fear that he might walk away now. His hands touched the exoskeleton controls, checking the power levels. The small screen blinked red. Low charge. She saw his jaw tighten. He was running out of time, out of energy, yet he had wasted it all carrying her. "You are a fool," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Your suit will die. You will die with me." He glanced at her then, his face shadowed, sweat cutting lines through the dust on his skin. His silence was worse than words. He pulled a small container from his belt, shaking it. Only a few drops of water inside. He pushed it into her hands. She stared at him, then at the water. Her pride made her hesitate, but her throat burned. Finally, she drank. For a moment there was quiet between them, broken only by the sound of the exoskeleton's gears shifting as he leaned back against the wall. Outside, patrol voices echoed again, closer this time. Light spilled through the cracks in the wall, sweeping across the chamber. He froze, pulling her against him, covering her with his armored frame. The voices grew louder, footsteps crunching on broken glass above them. One soldier laughed, another cursed, and then silence. The patrol moved on. Her body trembled against his chest. She realized her hands had clutched his armor without her knowing, holding on as if he was her only shield. Shame burned her cheeks. "Why do you do this?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Humans are not like this. You should want me dead." Finally, he answered, his voice low and rough. "I don't leave people to die." His words were simple, but they struck her like a weapon. No alien she had ever known would say something like that. Not her warriors, not her leaders. Certainly not her people who had abandoned her only hours ago. Suddenly, a crash echoed nearby. The wall behind them shivered, dust raining down. She gasped, clutching his arm. His head snapped toward the noise. The exoskeleton made a warning sound, metal on the verge of failure. He looked at her once, then without hesitation, he lifted her into his arms again. Her voice broke. "Stop, please, I can walk." But her legs gave out the moment they touched the ground, proving her words false. He caught her easily before she fell, pulling her back into his hold. The corridor outside shook with movement, soldiers searching. Shadows danced along the walls. He carried her into the ruins again, his steps silent but sure. She buried her face against his chest, not because she wanted to, but because fear made her. His heartbeat thundered steady while her own raced. Somewhere deep inside she realized the truth. He might die, but he would never let her go. And in that moment, as the ceiling above them groaned under the weight of enemy patrols, she hated herself for wanting him to keep holding her. The ruins gave way to the edge of a broken forest. Smoke trailed into the night sky, glowing faintly red where the city still burned behind them. The man's exoskeleton hissed and groaned with each heavy step, but he did not stop. His arms were firm around her, even when his breath grew rough and his legs slowed. The alien girl lay against him, silent now, though her mind refused to rest. Every sound in the dark forest felt dangerous. The rustle of leaves, the distant cries of beasts, the wind moving through broken branches. When he finally set her down beneath the shadow of a fallen tree, she felt the emptiness inside her stomach twist like a knife. She had not eaten in days. Her tongue was dry, her throat cracked. Pride made her bite back the words, but hunger pressed harder. The human noticed. Without speaking, he drew a knife from his belt and slipped into the darkness. She wanted to call him back, to say he was insane to hunt when patrols could be anywhere, but her voice betrayed her. It came out only as a broken whisper. He was already gone. The night stretched long. Her body trembled as she waited, listening. Every snap of a twig made her flinch. What if he never came back? What if he left her here after all? She pressed her hand against the dirt, thinking about her people who had abandoned her without hesitation. Humans were supposed to be selfish. Maybe he was no different. But then he returned. His armor was scratched with fresh marks, and in one hand he carried a small alien creature, lifeless but still warm. He crouched beside her, skin glistening with sweat, and began to cut the meat carefully. Soon, a faint fire flickered between broken stones, its light soft against the forest's shadows. The smell of cooked flesh filled the air. Her mouth watered, though she turned her face away. She did not want to need him. She did not want to depend on a human. He held a strip of food toward her. Eat. His voice was firm, not gentle, but steady like stone. She shook her head, but her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. His eyes did not move from hers. He did not lower his hand. Finally, trembling, she took the piece and bit into it. The taste was rough, bitter, but it filled her with strength she had almost forgotten. She ate quietly, ashamed at the relief she felt. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of fire and the sound of distant howls rising from deeper in the forest. Her head turned sharply. She recognized that sound. Hunters. Large, night-bred beasts that stalked anything weak. Her chest tightened. She tried to rise, but her legs betrayed her again, collapsing beneath her. The man was already standing, eyes scanning the trees. The fire's light flickered across his armor, throwing long shadows. He slid his knife back into its sheath and adjusted her closer, his exoskeleton whining as it bore their combined weight. His grip around her tightened. She clutched his chest without thinking, her fear stronger than her pride. The howls came again, closer this time. Branches snapped in the darkness. Red eyes flickered between the trees. The girl's breath caught in her throat as the beasts drew nearer, their shapes crawling out of the night. She had seen them tear through squads of her own kind, armored and armed with ease. Yet this human stood still, holding her like a promise as the forest closed in. Rain began to fall, not soft water, but thick drops that hissed when they touched the earth. The alien girl gasped as one struck her arm, burning her skin. It was not rain, it was acid. She tried to cover herself, but the human had already shifted the exoskeleton's plating over her, shielding her body beneath the steel frame. The drops splashed against his armor, leaving black streaks, yet he did not flinch. He carried her through the storm, his jaw tight, his breath steady, even while the suit groaned under the weight of both of them and the assault of the rain. Her head pressed against his chest, and for the first time she realized how close he kept her. The acid slid off the exoskeleton's shell, but where it missed, it stung his skin. She saw a burn mark rise along the side of his neck. He did not even raise a hand to wipe it away. He only moved forward, every step a refusal to stop. She turned her face, whispering with bitterness, though her voice shook. "Why do you keep doing this? You suffer because of me." He didn't answer at first. His eyes stayed on the ruined path ahead, scanning for shelter. At last he muttered, "Because if I don't, you die." The simplicity of it crushed her more than any speech could. They found an old bunker, half buried under mud. He forced the door open with the strength of his suit and carried her inside. The rain pounded above like falling knives, but in the shadows there was safety. He set her down on broken flooring, the dim glow of his armor lighting the chamber. She watched him, her thoughts torn between hatred, confusion, and something she could not name. She swallowed hard before speaking again. "You don't understand. If my people catch us together, they will not forgive you. They will not forgive me either." Her voice cracked as she added, "I am not just a soldier. I am the daughter of a general." The words hung in the damp air. His head turned slightly, but his face gave nothing away. She expected him to drop her, to curse her, to realize she was the reason for much of this war. Instead, he only adjusted the exoskeleton's controls, lowering himself to sit against the wall, his breath calm but heavy. "You should know," she whispered. "If they find us, they will kill you first, just to make me watch." His eyes met hers at last, and in them there was no fear. "Then I'll make sure they don't find us." The storm raged on outside, each strike of acid rain like claws against metal. Inside the bunker, she pulled her knees close, trembling, not from the cold, but from the truth she had spoken. He should have hated her, but instead he shielded her, carried her, bled for her. And now, knowing who she was, he still refused to let go. Her chest tightened, a strange pain she had never known. For the first time since the war began, she felt something dangerous take root inside her. Hope. The bunker's silence did not last. The sound of engines rolled across the storm, deep and heavy, shaking the earth under their feet. The human's head snapped up, listening. She knew the sound too well. Scout ships. They had tracked them through the ruins. Her stomach turned cold. He rose quickly, adjusting her in his arms. She tried to resist, her hands pushing weakly against his chest. You can't outrun them. Not with me. But his grip only tightened, the exoskeleton whirring as it shifted power to his legs. He moved through the far exit of the bunker, slipping back into the rain without hesitation. The storm had not eased. Acid fell harder, streaking his armor with steam and smoke. Every step was a battle. The suit's alarms blared, low charge, systems failing, but he pressed on, carrying her through the mud and broken forest. She could feel the machine's vibration against her bones, like the weight of each step heavier than the last. Through the trees, the glow of searchlights swept the ground. Voices shouted, their language sharp, promising death if they were found. She twisted in his hold, fear rising in her throat. You don't understand, human. My people are not merciful. If they catch you, they will tear you apart. His answer was to move faster. The exoskeleton's motors screamed, sparks flying from the joints. She could hardly breathe, pressed against his chest, every lurch of the machine making her heart race. He pushed the suit harder than it was meant to go, his face set with grim focus. She realized then he was not just fighting the soldiers chasing them. He was fighting the machine itself, forcing it beyond its limits. Branches whipped across his armor as he ran. Lights cut through the storm behind them. Gunfire cracked, striking trees, blasting the earth. She gasped as one shot exploded near his feet, spraying dirt across her face. Still, he did not falter. He clutched her tighter, ducking low, weaving between trees with speed that seemed impossible. Her mind spun. No human should have this much willpower. No soldier of her people would have carried someone like this. They would have dropped her, saved themselves. Yet he bore the weight of her life as if it was the only mission he had left in the universe. The suit's warning shifted to a shrill scream. Power critical. Red lights flashed across his chest plate. One more surge and the legs might lock forever. He stumbled once, falling to one knee. Her body jolted in his arms. She saw his face twist with pain, the strain of pushing flesh and metal too far. Put me down, she begged, tears burning her eyes despite the acid rain. Save yourself, please. But he only forced himself back to his feet, lifting her higher. His voice, ragged and raw, cut through the storm. Not while I can still stand. The sound of pursuit grew louder. Engines roared, searchlights broke through the trees, and shadows of hunters spread across the forest floor. His suit flickered with dying light, sparks spraying from the joints, and still he ran, carrying her as if the whole world was behind them, as if nothing else mattered but keeping her alive. The mountain path was narrow, carved by centuries of wind, sharp rocks rising like teeth on either side. His boots scraped against the stone as he pushed forward, her weight still locked in his arms. The exoskeleton's glow flickered, its servos whining with every step. She felt each jolt in his chest, each ragged breath against her hair. The storm had faded behind them, but the silence of the pass was worse. It was the silence of hunters waiting. Halfway across, his legs buckled. The machine groaned and collapsed to one knee, sparks flashing at the joints. She gasped as his arms loosened and her body slid against his chest. His face twisted in pain, sweat running through dust and blood. For the first time, he looked like he might break. She clutched at him, her own voice trembling. Stop. Please, stop. You'll die like this. Leave me here. Her words hit him harder than the storm had, but he did not answer. He dug his hand into the rock, forcing himself upright again. The exoskeleton shrieked in protest, its lights bleeding red, but he straightened with her in his arms. She could feel the tremor in his muscles, the human flesh beneath the steel refusing to surrender even when the machine failed. Her throat tightened as she whispered, "Why? You don't even know me." He looked down at her, his eyes dark and burning. His voice was hoarse, but each word was like iron. Because I won't let you die. Not while I'm breathing. Her chest clenched. She had heard commanders make speeches to armies, but never had words carried such weight when spoken to just one broken soul. She turned her face away, tears stinging her eyes, ashamed of how much she wanted to believe him. A new sound rose, low at first but growing louder, the grinding march of machines. At the far end of the pass, lights flared. Her people's war walkers stepped into view, metal giants armed with cannons that could level stone in seconds. The pass shook under their weight. Search beams cut across the rocks, sweeping toward them. Her breath caught. "It's over," she whispered, her body trembling. She expected him to falter at last, to drop her and run, or to fall to his knees in despair. But he only shifted her higher against his chest, planting his boots firmly into the stone. The exoskeleton's alarms screamed as its power sank to nothing, the glow fading until only darkness wrapped his armor. Yet even without it, he held her. His back was straight, his arms unyielding. The war machines drew closer, their weapons aiming. She could not take her eyes from him. A human carrying her with nothing left but flesh and will, standing between her and death, as if he was built of something stronger than steel. The machines advanced, their weapons humming with power, the stone trembling under their steps. He had no exoskeleton left to rely on, no glow to hide in, only his own strength. Yet his arms tightened around her as if she weighed nothing, his body refusing to bend. She could feel his heart beating fast, not with fear, but with fire. He took one step forward, then another, carrying her straight into the light of death. Gunfire split the air. Explosions ripped across the rocks. He twisted, his body shielding her completely, his shoulder tearing open under the blast. She screamed his name without meaning to, clutching at him, but he only pressed her closer. He moved with a rhythm of desperation, weaving through the storm of fire with nothing but instinct and rage to guide him. Every blast scorched him, every shock nearly knocked him down, but still he pushed forward. Her people watched from within the machines, and confusion spread among them. Their scanners showed the human suit was dead, his systems drained, yet he carried her as if the weight of an alien general's daughter meant nothing. Soldiers inside the machines hesitated, questioning what they were seeing. Humans were supposed to break easily, yet this one would not fall. He reached the narrow cliff where the pass dropped away into a valley. The machines thundered closer behind him, their weapons ready to fire again. His body was broken, his blood soaking into her skin, yet his grip never loosened. His voice came low, shaking but full of unshakable resolve. "Hold on." He leapt. The drop yawned beneath them, the air roaring as they fell. For a moment, she thought it was the end, both of them broken on the rocks below. But his body twisted, his back slamming against the stone, his arms locking around her to shield her from the fall. Pain racked him, but he did not cry out. When they struck the ground, she opened her eyes to see him still holding her, refusing to let go. Her people surrounded the valley within minutes, weapons raised, but no one moved. They stared at the human who should have been dead 100 times, yet stood on broken legs, his arms still wrapped around their general's daughter. His chest heaved, his face pale, but his eyes burned like fire in the shadows. Something changed in that silence. The soldiers who had left her for dead now lowered their weapons, uncertain. She could see it in their faces, the first spark of doubt, the first question of whether humans were truly weak. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she pressed her forehead against his blood-stained armor. Her voice broke, raw and trembling. "You should have left me, but now I can't leave you." And in that valley of war and silence, carried by nothing but his will, the legend of a single human began.